Evening everybody, welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou's standing at Woodlands. Hope you're enjoying the Inter-Dominions as much as this bloke beside me. Evening to you, Michael. Yeah, I know you're going to have the poll here. How many people stayed up and watched them live? Because you will be one of the very few.
Yeah, hi Greg. A big hi to everybody watching at home. Look, it's been a fantastic series so far, and last night very intriguing. But yeah, put your hands up if you stayed up to watch the whole lot live.
Nice guy for me.
Yeah. No, I don't reckon there's too many there. I understand for a lot of harness racing people, well, people got kids, for example. If you're working horses in the morning, got to get the kids off to school, it's probably too late to stay up to midnight to watch the races. That's what this show is going to be half about tonight. We're going to look at the heats, both rounds, talk about what we've seen, try and give you an honest appraisal. We'll then get the man himself, Mark Purdon, on the phone, nice and early from Perth, to talk about where Lazarus actually is, Greg. So Inter-Dominions, first part of the show, lots of stuff in the second part of the show about New Zealand, and of course the loss of a great horse in Take a Moment. Gregory, we have a lot of ground to cover. Some of that ground is in West Australia.
So let's get straight there, and if you missed them, here's your opportunity to view last night's heats. The first of those was the first upset, Michael Guerin. No passing lane here at Bunbury. Three back the fence. Didn't matter so much for Galactic Star.
Didn't. This is the fourth heat, but the first of last night. He's coming down the outside in the blue. The upset here, Lenny the loser.
They hit the line, three-way go, Galactic Star. I think on the outside is just one. From either Yaya's Hotspot on the inside. And
so beat Yaya's Hotspot, who led and then handed up to Lenny the Shark, who got there pretty easily. I had my concerns when we go back to the first round of heats. Lenny's 8 years of age now. He's had a few injury concerns. We know he missed the series last year after winning it the first year it was held in Perth. He doesn't look entirely comfortable. I'm not saying that he won't be a force to be reckoned with in the final, but that wasn't Lenny at his best.
Well, the market indicates the fact that he's gone from $5 to $10. This season he's gone on a curve, and it's been a slowly decreasing curve. That took a big dip last night. Excellent winning fresh up in the Smoking Up. Good in the Victoria Cup. All right at Yarra Valley. All right on the first night. So we'll talk about the winner in a second, but very poor there by Lenny's standards. Now, Chris Alford said after the race, look, his words, not mine, he was being a dickhead and looking around. Well, that's all well and good, but two greatly inferior horses ran past him. Yaya's Hotspot's just a very nice horse at free-for-all level, went straight past him in the straight. Galactic Star came from three back on the inside at Bunbury, went past him. And what you didn't see there is Lenny the Shark got a really easy lead. On what you saw last night, you cannot back him to win the final. Absolutely.
Did he go too slow? That would be that second last quarter.
I don't think it matters. I think in harness racing we play into that stuff too much. The bottom line was two inferior horses ran past him, so he's underperformed. Now, it doesn't matter too much in the context of Friday night because he's in the final now. So David Aiken and Chris Alford can afford to do whatever they want on Friday night and then have a week to get him back to his best. But, gee, there'd need to be a big signal, Greg, somewhere there. And they'll talk the talk, but you've got to bet with your own eyes. And for me, that's a no for the final for him at this stage. The barrier draw on Sunday is going to be crucial. Galactic Star and Yaya's Hotspot probably in the finals, so Yaya's on the cusp.
But a horse suited by a good barrier, yeah, as was the case last night.
And two horses who probably couldn't win a final anyway, but would add to the final. Second heat last night was really interesting. Soho Tribeca versus Chicago Bull, and this is indicative of Inter-Dominion heats. People give you all this rah-rah over all the years about the Inter-Dominion heats and it's got to be 3 rounds, but what happens is those with good points after the first round often drive conservatively. We'll see that here. Soho Tribeca gets the lead relatively easily. He's always going to win. Very, very impressive. He's been the find of the series. Chicago Bull in behind in the blue and yellow Hall colours. Pulled out late, comes home quickly for a very strong third. But Greg, basically he was given a trial.
He was. Slowest heat of the night, 55.2 mile rate. 54.6, so similar to his splits in the first round of heats and home in 26.2. Gave the horses behind him absolutely no chance of making up any ground. I'm a fan of the horse. He's a good horse. There's no doubt about that. But he's yet to have a real war with a Lenny or a Lazarus or a Tiger Tara. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of the series.
Yeah, so am I. The question's going to be, when he can't lead, can he sit parked outside the horses you just named? And maybe he can, but he hasn't proven that. He's a very good horse, and he's at home, and he's healthy, and he's fit, and he's in the zone. So there's lots of positives there. He's trained and driven by a guy who's trained and driven an Inter-Dominion winner. So we know he's not going to stuff this up. And he's had 2 really easy runs. So this series isn't hurting him. All the positives in this series are with Soho Tribeca. But we haven't seen whether he can win without leading. Not saying he can't, but if it's a poor leader and he sits outside it, maybe he could. But if he's sitting outside Tiger Tara or Lazarus in particular, that's the question mark.
Leading up to the series as well, he was getting beaten by not leading.
True, and very good, and like with
Chicago Bull.
With very good performances, I agree. So, look, he is, in my mind now, equal favourite for the final. He's just outside that in the markets, Greg. There's no pot on the horse. Sometimes horses just end up in the right place at the right time.
And he's that at the moment.
He's that at the moment. And Kim Prentice is a great guy. So I'll be more than happy to see him win a final. But the barrier draw is going to be crucial for him. He draws 9 or worse, 10, one on the second line in the final, because he might lack an inch of change-up speed. He might be $5 or $6. He draws 1 or 2, he might start $2.20 favourite. And that's how crucial the barrier draw on Sunday is going to be. That's without, of course, Friday night's heats, where we may see him trying to do something different coming from off the speed. And I'm still not convinced about that. But I'm not convinced about any horse in this series outside Chicago Bull coming from off the speed.
Tiger Tara, we needed to have a look at the final heat of the night. He had the barrier draw, Lazarus didn't, and we'll get Richie Bell to bring them home here in a very good home stretch battle.
He's after Tiger Tara. Tiger Tara the leader. Lazarus is trying hard, then San Carlo. Tiger Tara's in front, and Tiger Tara has won by 2 metres to Lazarus, 20 metres to San Carlo, 2 metres to Major.
52.3 mile rate, obliterated the track record, 54.7, 26.5. Over 2.5 seconds faster than Galactic Star and almost 3 seconds quicker than Soho Tribeca. How much do we read into that?
We read into the fact that Tiger Tara's had an amazing fortnight. Let's get to Lazarus later. What an incredible thing he's done. He's gone from Sydney to Auckland to Christchurch. He's raced in the New Zealand Cup. He was the run of the Cup outside the winner. Good in the free-for-all, but probably dulled a little bit by what happened. Then went Christchurch, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. Then was enormous behind Lenny the Shark, then produces that. Now, take Lazarus out of that picture. Say he wasn't in that heat. He wins that by 20 metres. So he's a very, very good horse. Again, he's in the zone. I'm not sure how much longer he can keep it up, but he's a stallion. You know, my views on them, when they get full of themselves, they can do remarkable things. Put him up against the marker picks at Gloucester Park, geez, going to be hard to catch over any distance, because we know he'll cop the 29.36 metres. We don't know that about Chicago Bull and Soho Tribeca, the final distance. We know with Tiger Tara it's not a concern.
Michael, there'll be people watch that and go, OK, Ultimate Machete sat outside him and beat him in the New Zealand free-for-all, and you've probably quantified that by saying he raced below his best after the Cup run where Ultimate Machete didn't come through that, and Lazarus has now sat outside him and not been able to beat him. What should we read into that, and where is Lazarus at for the series?
One word is bends. There's more bends at Bunbury and Gloucester Park. Every time you go around a bend on a harness racing track, the tighter the bend is, you can lose up to about 2.2 lengths, depending on cart widths and all that sort of stuff. It's a technical approach, but it's around 2 lengths. 2 lengths is an easy figure. So if Lazarus has gone round 4 bends, and each time been in the running line, and at some stage 3 wide, he's losing 2 lengths a bend. He's losing 8 lengths. Now people go, well, that's all rubbish, but it's actually true. That's just basic geometry. So the advantage you have on a smaller track compared to Addington, where Ultimate Machete sat parked out, is enormous. Like, you lose so much more, whereas basically Addington's a lot closer to running in a straight line. And the horses don't get unbalanced wide at Addington, one off. You can see the horses getting unbalanced at Bunbury and Gloucester Park. So the physics is against them. I also think Tiger Tara was dulled by his New Zealand Cup run, as you would expect, Greg. They get a lot of lactic acid build up in those big hind quarter muscles, and it's really hard to flush it out before the Friday. So I'm not willing to think that Laz has underperformed. On the clock and to our eye, I think he's been really good. We'll hear from Mark Purdon later. I do also think that as the series progresses and we get into the longer distances, it's 2,536 metres or something this week on Friday, we'll see better versions of Lazarus, because I think it will affect the other horses more where it won't affect him. The one question you would have, Greg, about Lazarus is this. If leading is going to be crucial in the final, and it's not the be-all and end-all, but if it's going to be crucial, does he have the gate speed to lead? Because we haven't seen it much in his career. And
if he gets barrier 1 or 2, though...
Of course, I totally
We've
agree.
seen Joe Fess at this series
100%
15 years ago.
And I think everybody knows the same stuff. Everybody goes, OK, if he leads in the final, because no horse has ever run past him, still in a race, if he leads in the final, he'll win it. But how does he lead? Because it's not something he's used to doing. So we'll ask Mark later on what he thinks of that. Let's go back to Friday night, the first round of heats, which seems an age ago now, but we'll give you something to compare them with. Here's Soho Tribeca in the first heat, and there's Lazarus again. You're losing so much on the bends. Now, I believe here, Greg, Soho Tribeca thrashed Lazarus. Let's not be parochial Kiwis and go, oh, blah, blah, blah. He thrashed him.
He did.
Absolutely.
But you don't win a
him.
grand final on night 1.
No, you agree, you don't. But you also don't make money being parochial. Now, what I've seen in this series is the New Zealand media and some of the retired media just want to hear about Lazarus, and you can't argue with me, I know. And then the Victorian media, the same on Lenny the Shark. Terrible last night, but nope, don't want to hear about it. And then the WA media, well, rah, WA. That's all well and good, and that's what fans' job is. But your job in the media is to tell the truth. There's people out here watching the show who are putting their hard-earned up. They've got washing machine bills to pay and they've got to fill the car full of petrol. Us raving on and flying a flag and going, Laz, that's just for children.
No, I agree.
And it annoys me because the media's job isn't that. That's for the All Blacks and for the America's Cup.
Like, he was outstanding, Soho Tribeca, but he could have won that by 3 metres and had a lap full of horse and won nicely. What I'm saying is he won by 10 or 11 metres and looked fantastic, and that's all great. We'll see what he's doing in another 10 days' time. And I know that Lazarus will be on this slope.
Yep.
That horse will need to be at that level to beat Lazarus. Lenny the Shark and a couple of other swoopers like Chicago Bull didn't need to do that on night 1.
I agree. I agree that he has yet to prove himself at that level. But if these horses all just came out of the woodwork and you'd never seen them before during the series, on this series, in that climate over there, and he's working on his home track. Lazarus is working on a track he's not used to. There's a lot of advantages here. That's why I keep raving on about it, because it's so easy for us to just go rah, 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 but it's not about that. So Lazarus has been good in this series. He has been nothing close to dominant because he's been beaten both times.
Soho Tribeca has been dominant.
Exactly. And Soho, if someone told you that Soho Tribeca was Lazarus and Lazarus did that to Soho Tribeca, we'd all be sitting here going, no chance he'll beat him in the final, it's impossible. And that's the failing of it, is being parochial and putting that parochial template over gambling. When you go to the bank to take the money out, no one cares what horse you backed. And that's my attitude to it. But I understand the fact that I'm here to be an analyst, and a lot of other people in the industry here as fans. That's their enjoyment. This is our job. And that's a really important differential. So a lot of things will change on Sunday, but on that, it's hard to make any logical case that Lazarus can sit parked outside Soho Tribeca and beat him.
Only the distance, that might be the factor.
Possibly.
Now, we've watched Lenny the Shark in the second round of heats. Let's go back to the first round. If we hadn't seen that and you watch this, you'd be like, well, he can win a second at the Dominion because he was good. But as I said before, Michael, he just got up the track a wee bit.
Yeah, and again, Tiger Tara's in the Lazarus position here, where he's doing the more work outside the leader and he's still coming at the line. So very similar, Tiger Tara and Lazarus during the series. Very, very, and actually, they're quite similar horses. Both Betters Delights and strong, stallions. Lenny's just got a little bit worse every run this campaign. So they've got time to turn this around.
He went the fastest overall time by a short margin over Soho Tribeca. Yeah, they have got time, but he's ageing. He's done such a magnificent job, Lenny the Shark. I'm in awe of some of his performances and how brave he can be in so many races. And we go back to his 3-year-old days when he won the New South Wales Derby, right through to now, Michael. His longevity been amazing for a big, strong horse, and no wonder his joints are feeling it a wee bit.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a little bit like the sort of Winks thing. You think, well, how much longer can this continue? And you want them to win. If you're a Victorian, they want them to win. But on last night, the first heat we showed you, you can't back him to win the final. He might still win, and you might change your opinion by Sunday, and he might change all of our opinions for us on Friday night. But again, if you bet parochially like the Victorians are now, as I said last night on social media, they're all defending his run. It's indefensible. It was terrible, by his
standards, yeah.
But the final's still a long way away.
Chicago Bull is one of the local stars as well, and he got win number 26. Now, this is him on the markers round his home track. Very hard to get past.
Well, are we seeing a theme here?
Yes.
When you talk about those bends and how much advantage you lose by being off the marker pegs, markers. All the heats are being won by horses on the markers. The only one who hasn't led to in its heat was Galactic Star, who is 3 back on the inside. So those marker peg runs are enormous. He's a very nippy horse. He's a small horse. He loves Gloucester Park. The Halls are outstanding trainers and drivers.
Of course, the Price family bred this horse, and he got sold for decent money. He's won $1 million now, Michael.
And he's going to win a lot more. So he can win the final. Can he lead and win the final? I doubt it. I'm not sure he's a rough and tumble horse, but there's a little bit of on the mighty Quinn about him. Can you come from off the speed to win this final? Well, you put Lazarus 3 wide in the final, or Lenny the Shark, and him on their back, and the going hammer and tongs in front, Greg, he'll be awfully hard to beat. He's the horse who probably isn't as draw dependent for the final, because he could draw anywhere and still win it, but I think it's tempo dependent for him. The tempo of the final is going to be crucial.
Michael, we've got the top 5, and with all due respect, the rest. That's where they sit from Shandale down. San Carlo was a big spruik horse going into it, but he hadn't proved what So High Tribeca is proving now, that he has got the ability to take on the absolute best. Devendra is a very good horse. He Go Down was good the first night, not so last night. But the top 5 have sorted themselves out.
You'd be stunned if the winner, Greg, came from outside the top 5. They're proven Grand Circuit Group 1 horses now.
There's one horse here that's a clear standout on the second page, the Fall from Grace of number 23.
It's been remarkable. If you told people 20 months ago, after Have Faith in Me beat Lenny the Shark at 147.5, he would be 300 to 1 for the Inter-Dominion, they would say, well, who's training him now? And if you said Mark Purdon and Natalie Rasmussen, they would say, well, that's impossible. It's impossible to work out what's happened with them. And if Mark can't work it out,
who can?
Who can? Yeah. So I think he's just chased for too long. I think he's like some of those horses they use as galloping companions. His manners had put him in positions where he has had to chase, and I think he's got half dirty on life. Mark, we'll speak to him very shortly. After the break, we'll talk to Mark about what he could do, but I think his future lies offshore only because not only do you have these horses in Australia, who clearly he can't beat anymore. Coming back home, you've got Vincent, Heaven Rocks, Dream About Me, who's out of the Auckland Cup Carnival, but still going to be floating around. Ultimate Machete. How can you make a case he can beat these? I think the Dunfords, his owners, have to say to themselves, do we want to keep this horse or do we want to flick him? And they're buyers at the sales and go back and reinvest. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the second one of those options, Group.
Is Perth where he needs to be, though? Because his gate's not that good.
No, small track's not.
No.
You would think he's an American horse.
Yeah.
You would think. I don't think anybody knows what's really gone on with Have Faith in Me, and you just wish the horses could talk so you could ask them. But if Mark can't get him right, I don't know who could.
So that's a look at a couple of rounds of the Inter-Dominions. As we go to a break, Michael's already alluded to, we're going to catch up with Mark Purdon, but passing away in the last week has been a champion of the Inter-Dominion. Of course, Take a Moment, unfortunately passed away, trained by Tim Butt, who had such a wonderful run. I reckon, Michael, he didn't get the plaudits he deserved because he came around the time when Lyell Creek left New Zealand, then came back, and he was right in the middle there. But have a look at his record, amazing record, winning 13 Group 1s in total. He won 8 Group 2s as well. There's his career stats, probably in an era where the trotting stakes weren't as big. Lyell Creek got the majority of those, didn't he, with his wins at in Australia at Moonee Valley when they were racing for $500,000 in the Trotters final. But he was just a great horse, and there's his resume of major wins.
He won a stack in a row, about 21 in a row or 19. It was a big number. He didn't race in a great era because he just missed Lyell Creek. And then it was up against Martina H and some good horses, but without a champion sort of horse to battle with. And you need those villains, you know, to give you that backstory. He was a wonderful horse, very fast horse. As I said, had it not been for Lyell Creek, people would have said, wow, this is an amazing horse. But he came right on the doorstep of a truly great horse. Fondly remembered, Jack O'Donnell, who of course was my old rugby coach and a long-time commentator, was in the ownership, so there was a popular ownership group behind the horse. Let's talk about the Inter-Dominions as we go to the break. Let's go back to one of his signature wins, the Brisbane Inter-Dominion. There were plenty of great wins from this horse.
But this was start like 13 or 14. This was remarkable.
Yep, and this was back in the day when Tim and Anthony Butt ruled the trotting world. And he was a very rare millionaire trotter. Farewell to take a moment.
He's the Trotters champion. Take a moment, Big Mountain Gold. Third special force flying home.
Seat continues, and we continue our look at the Inter-Dominion. Pleasure to be joined online in Perth, of course, by Mark Purdon. And Mark, a very good morning it is to you. Hope things are panning out well for you. Understand weather-wise it's not as hot as last year.
Yeah, good morning, Greg, and good morning, listeners. Yes, it is the case. We're getting through the heats pretty good, and as far as the heat actually goes, no, it's more pleasant than it was last year.
Mark, we've been through a couple of rounds of heats. We'll look at those very shortly. Talk me through the travel with Lazarus and how he's coped with it, because clearly this is his biggest trip so far.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. And, you know, I have noticed, I think the difference between last year and this year is that we did have that extra week up our sleeve, and I felt that's probably just worked against us in the arrival time here and the short period we've had going into the first round. So that's been tough, but, you know, I thought he was a little bit better horse last night, and he surprised me the way he sort of come through the run this morning. He seems nice and bright.
Mark, it's the first time he's ever been beaten twice in his career, and both times probably by the draw. How happy are you so far on what the horse has done?
Well, I'm very happy. I thought the first night he may have gone a little better, but... And he came through the run good, and I thought last night, well, I was happier with him. I thought he was better again. I think he was. But, yeah, on both occasions, probably the draws counted against him, and the smaller tracks, it's biased to sort of front running.
Both times, Mark, you've had to come sit parked, and both times outside good, fit horses up against the markers. Does it sort of remind us all just how biased these tracks are? Because obviously the horses on the marker pegs have won every heat, Mark, and here at Addington or even at Alexandra Park, you might be able to overcome some of those things. Once you're out there and you have a Soho Tribeca or a Tiger Tara going full speed inside you, how much do you actually lose on those bends?
Well, you do notice you're running hard, and probably last night as an example, like I felt like I was making ground with Have Faith in Me 4 wide, and then the horse I was moving past, he got bumped out, forced me wider, and from going 4 wide to 5 wide, I went from making ground to losing ground. So there is, yeah, they're certainly working harder and covering more ground, and it takes its toll.
Is that going to be less of a factor, Mark, this Friday and in the final, because over the longer distances, obviously it's harder for those horses like a Tiger Tara to just keep running at that full speed. So do you think as we get into the longer trips and obviously heading into the final, these horses might start to come back to Lazarus?
Well, I think they would. They certainly couldn't just maintain the speeds they're going over that distance. So they are going to come back to us if they try to run the race the way they are, but naturally the shorter distances they're all happy to keep rolling.
Mark, we haven't got the barrier draws yet for Friday night, but the one thing which is becoming crucial in the series is gate speed, and we haven't seen blazing gate speed on many occasions from Lazarus in his career. If you get a decent draw on Friday night, is it time for you to use that gate speed, A, to make a statement, and B, to get him into that mindset in case it's needed in the final on Friday week?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be scared to push the button and ask him for his best out of the gate, Mick, but you know, on the first 2 nights, there's been horses inside them that are not going to hand up, and you know the thing about it, you've got to get points and get them through to the final. So, you know, I haven't gone to war with them as yet, but you know, it's certainly a good draw. I wouldn't be scared to use it, and we know the smaller tracks, the front's the best place to be.
Mark, who's impressed you the most, Soho Tribeca, record-wise, and what we've seen on the track through this series? Would he be the most impressive so far?
Yeah, I would say him and Chicago Bull for me. I thought last night Chicago Bull was really closing the gap quick, and it was a very fast quarter, so they would be the 2 for me, I would say.
This time last year, Mark, as we're watching Soho Tribeca win here, and he looks a horse is very much in the zone, as does Chicago Bull. This time last year, Smolder had a similar type series to Lazarus, and then you somehow turned him around in a week, and he comes out and wins the final. You do know that everybody expects you to pull that magic off again, don't you, Mark? You do realise everybody back here in New Zealand's going, that'll be fine, Mark will sort things out next week. What can you do with Lazarus in that 7-day gap to keep him fresh, to keep him happy? What little magic tricks do you perform when you have a week with a horse like him?
Well, yeah, it's just hard to know. Like, he's going really good, and you know, he just needs. He just doesn't need any bad luck. He's certainly going to be hard in the final, as it is now. So it'll be nice once we get the 3rd round out of the road, and then you know, maybe I'll just take him to the beach in the afternoon and do little things like that just keep him mentally fresh and well.
Is it a case that you want to draw inside? I take 2 horses more so than any others. Soho Tribeca and Tiger Tara on Sunday. Are they the 2 key horses you would like to stay in front of?
Yes, yeah. At this stage, I think you know, they. You wouldn't want to be trying to go round them, and you know, 2 horses like that, the race handy you might be forced to sit 3 wide the trip, or when you do make a move, you might be just left out 3 wide. So it certainly would make it hard.
Mark, Have Faith in Me, your other horse in the series. First night, despicable by his absolute top standard, but better at Bunbury. Yes,
he was. I was more happy with him last night, and as I say, I was sort of 4 wide and making ground, feeling like I was going to be in it. And then when I went that extra cart wider, I went from making ground to losing ground. But he was still finding the line at the finish and running on. So much more improved run.
Mate, Ultimate Machete was stunning on the first night, obviously, and he sat parked outside Tiger Tara and beat him, so we know how good he is. Not racing this Friday, he looks to have the wood on the 4-year-olds over there, and I would have thought only bad luck would probably be the threat to him in the final of the Golden Nugget on Friday week.
Oh, I would think so too, Mick, and he's just come through the run superb, so you know, he's jumping out of his skin. He probably could have gone round this week, but you know, it's probably asking a lot of him, but yeah, he's come through the run great, and he's in a good place.
Just on that, you see him doing this, and you see what he did to Tiger Tara, and it's very easy to say, well, this horse could be a factor in the Inter-Dominion, but obviously you can compare him with Lazarus. Is it a case where he could have been a factor in the Inter-Dominion, or without having that blazing gate speed some of these Australian horses have, would he be on the same back foot Lazarus has been on without the experience to deal with it?
Yeah, that's right, Mick, and you know, you sort of got to introduce them to this grade and sort of make them. And this is a year I think you do make them. And you know, I think if we place him right, you know, he's going to win a lot of money this year, and you know, he's going to be a serious Grand Circuit horse next year. But I think if we look after him and just do the right thing by him, that this year will make him.
Mate, you've got some very serious races coming up in the middle of January. There's the Freo Cup and the WA Cup worth a lot of money. I know initially you thought you may leave a horse there. Are you thinking now that maybe you won't because Soho Tribeca and Chicago Bull are very, very good horses and it may not be worth staying for? Or would you make that decision maybe a couple of days after the Inter-Dominion?
Yeah, look, I think there's no need to make a final decision yet, Mick, and I think I'd probably wait till after the final night and then just sleep on it and have a think about it and work it out from there.
Mark, 153.8 he rated, faster than any other on the Friday night, including the 3 at a Dominion heat, so he's in wonderful form. Piccadilly Princess, she didn't have all favours, but I thought her performance to get as close as she did was pretty good.
Yeah, that's right too, Greg, and when I looked at the video afterwards, she was one that was wide out, making the most ground, and the poor that Peter Home was sort of on the marker line, getting a soft trip, so... Yeah, she's come through that run good too, and a good draw this week, which will aid her. So, Amaretto will be the one to beat again, of course, but she's in a good place too.
Mark, the nominations for the Auckland Cup close on Friday. Who will and won't be nominated for you? I know Titan Banner has rejoined the team. We presume Titan Banner, Vincent and Heaven Rocks will be your nominees. I believe Dream About Me no longer going to the Auckland Cup to defend her title.
No, she'd actually just pulled up a little sore after the free-for-all, so it's not a serious issue, but just needs a little bit of time off, so we'll probably focus more on Australia with her in the new year.
Do you nominate Lazarus and/or Ultimate Machete for an Auckland Cup?
Look, probably not, because I think they'll stay in Australia, but we've got... some big races in Melbourne and Sydney coming up, so yeah, probably not at this stage.
Mark, are you pleased with the progress of Vincent? Because we consider what Ultimate Machete's done so far with the free-for-all and obviously that impressive run the other night. Vincent had his measure towards the end of their 3-year-old campaign, so are you and Natalie pleased where he's at?
Yes, very pleased. He's had a good build-up and just had 2 trials under his belt now, and that's going to trial him again next week, and then he heads to Auckland and races on the 15th. It'll be his first race in the north.
Okay, talking about the Australian campaign, as you said, going back to Melbourne, are you basically suggesting now, Mark, we won't see Lazarus in New Zealand again this season? Because if he's going to race through to the Miracle Mile, which I presume he will, outside an Easter Cup, I don't see too many other races for him. So is he probably going to stay in Australia all the way through?
Yes, he probably will, Mick. Yeah.
Okay. Ultimate Machete is maybe going to do the same thing. Would you dip his toe in open class? Would you give him a crack at a Ballarat Cup or even a Hunter Cup?
Yes, you would now. Yeah, and I think he's proved he's up there, and just a matter of just placing him right now and going into those races, just spacing them out and looking after them. But you wouldn't be scared to take on a race like the Hunter Cup. I think he'd probably love that and love the distance.
Okay. You've got a truckload of horses, I believe, heading to Auckland. How many horses, Greg was suggesting, around 17, might turn up in the north at some stage? Yes,
that's generally the number we have, 17 to 20. So I'd say it'd probably be closer to the 20 mark. But yeah, we'll have a big team up there.
Mark, really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us an insight into how things are going over there and, of course, back here in New Zealand. It's a massively busy time for you and Natalie and the entire All-Stars team. So,
Greg, I've got one more question for Mark, and I want to put this to you, Mark. As 2 blokes who've known you for a long time, for punters at home, so we can ask you a question no one else is going to ask you, are you as confident you can win this series as you were a week ago before you had to go around those tight tracks a couple of times and be reminded just how hard it is? Are you thinking now Lazarus has as good a chance of winning the Inter-Dominion in 9 days' time as you felt this time last week?
No, it's going to be harder this year. That's my feeling. There's a lot of horses that are in a good place, and 2 or 3 of them have just had nicer runs through the heats, and probably just worries me if you have another hard run on Friday, it mightn't be in his best interest. But so far so good, but certainly I've got a lot of respect for some of these others.
Okay. Mark, thanks for joining us, buddy. Mate, good luck on Friday night, and of course, more importantly, good luck for the week after, not only with Laz, of course, but also Piccadilly Princess, Ultimate Machete, and maybe a consolation for Have Faith in Me.
No, good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark. Great to get that insight from him. It really has been. And
well, it answers a lot of questions, doesn't it?
And especially I was expecting and hoping probably him to say, oh, yeah, I'm as confident. So there's a little bit of trepidation there. As
I said, it's really hard. What I did before the heats last week is exactly what I did before New Zealand Cup week. Before New Zealand Cup week, I went back and watched every race on New Zealand Cup Day last year because it reminds you how hard it is to make ground. And before betting into the heats, and I backed against Lazarus both times, I bet against him because I was reminded myself by watching the heats at Bunbury last year and at Gloucester Park last year just how hard this is. Now, last year's Inter-Dominion final, Smolder won, but the horses in front over-raced and they actually came back to him. They're not going to come back to him this time. This barrier draw, Greg, on Sunday is crucial. He draws to lead in the Inter-Dominion final, I think he'll win. If he doesn't, it's going to be an awfully, awfully hard race to win.
Oh, it's an intriguing series. The Inter-Dominion of 2017, the last time it'll be at WA in the initial 10 years anyway. When we return on the other side, we will have a look at our domestic harness racing coming up. Speeding Spur returns to the racetrack very shortly. Here he is at the trials. Cameron Shaw to bring him home, and Michael Guerin's reaction.
Outside, and it is the Hulk in the lead. Here's Speeding Spur starting to jump it back in the centre of the track now, and on the straight and narrow, Speeding Spur starts to pull away a little bit there towards the line and gets in easily from the Hulk.
Nice to have him back, isn't it, Speeding Spur? I think we need him more than ever, Greg, because Monbay has been sidelined sadly again for a long time. I think we saw, while there was a great fairy tale story in the Dominion with Amarito's son, the open class trotting ranks lack a little bit of vavum. It's going to be interesting to see who turns up in the north for what's a series of races. They go Alexander Park, Cambridge again. But if you had a market for the national trot, and those entries, by the way, close on Friday, if you had a market, he would have to hit it. Because as good as Great Things Happen is and Bordeaux is, this is a horse who has been at that next level alongside Monbay. So Josh and John very happy with him. That trial just proves he's sound. That's the most important part. Looking forward to having him back. He's going to come in at a tough time for the Lyell Creek because those other horses are going to be fit. But I think by the time we get to the national trot, he'll be the one to beat. And maybe he's the best trotter in Australasia at the moment with Monbay sideline.
And we're looking forward to him staying sound and getting over to the Great Southern Star because we know what he's been able to do there in the past. Yeah,
he's travelled a lot in his life and he's travelled successfully, so yes, it's good to have him back. I'm not sure who's all going to turn up here in Auckland. Apparently Amarito's Star, they were talking about not turning up with, so...
I know away from the trotters, there's 8 on the truck for the All-Stars this week and then there's another 9 the following week, so there's a few heading your way.
Well, there's some big money. It's interesting to see with the trotters where they all land and who comes out of Cup Week having gone forward. So, yeah, it's good to have him back. It's good to have a name horse that we can now judge Bordeaux and Great Things Happen and Amarito's Son, if you want to go down that path, against.
Speaking of horses returning, well, I watched this one on my phone and I was thinking, Tony Hurley, you're a long way back at the 400 metre with Star Galleria. In fact, I don't know that you can win. This doesn't happen at Alexandra Park very often, Michael.
Last time I saw a horse in a sprint trip, and we're looking at the horse right down the outside, come from that far back on the bend at Alexandra Park. I think Alert Motoring might have done it to win a Taylor Mile one year. Just never happens. And he's gone straight past them. I had my doubts last year, Greg, on what he would be as an older horse, but clearly he's got the speed to be a good older horse. I'm not saying he'll win an Auckland Cup. He'll probably be in those nominations, which again close on Friday, but he's a horse who could win a Cambridge Mile or one of those races without surprising you. He's only 4. And you'd look at him and say, what a 4-year-old he is. But we've got Vincent, we've got Ultimate Machete, we've got Jack's Legend. It's turning into a very, very good 4-year-old.
He is the horse that Stephen Reid does need, though. I was reading in The Informant last week that, you know, things have been a bit of a struggle, horse numbers wise and quality of horse on the track. This is the horse he needs to keep him going and keep his profile up, and on that performance he's going to do that.
Stephen's in a position a lot of guys are where your name hasn't been banded around a lot for a year and all of a sudden people drop off you and it's very easy to go to other trainers. He's also a guy who has had very good success with other people's, not cast-offs, but horses from other barns. And if you're in the South Island now and you're thinking, okay, we'll get through summer and Christmas and my family wants to see the horse race, and then you get to a January and you're thinking, look, I've got this horse, we can't get starts, or I want to race for the big dollars. They're the sort of guys you can send horses to because they can get them up and running for you. You can build that secondary option, you know, to try and win some money. So that's one of the things Stephen, I think, has an opportunity to do, is go after those southern horses and say to people, I'm not trying to keep your horse, send it here, win you a stack of money and send it home. And he's had a great deal of success with doing that for people in the past, and I think that's an option for him.
Grass track racing certainly to the fore at the moment, and Geraldine was an outstanding day there last Saturday. The Cup, of course, was a deep race. Here's James Dean in front. Seaswift Joy didn't have any luck in the PGG Wrightson race there at Addington, the mares race on show day. She darts up the inside here. Young John Morrison, again, he needs a good horse to drive. Mel Shin's decided that he's the man for the job, and this was a good win, Michael.
It's remarkable when you see those Shin colours, how often they're on good mares.
Well, you go back over the years.
Oh, it's incredible. The amount of success. And
Dame Royce, Dainty Nero.
You don't often see mares winning country cups. They do get that 10-metre relief in their handicaps, but that's a big win because there's probably 4 or 5 horses there, Greg, I thought would end up in open class. But I haven't spoken to Shinny for a while, but I've always wondered maybe that's something they concentrate on more and they keep those nice breeding horses because they had that association with the stud for such a long time. But it's an incredible amount.
Quiet touch. You know, you go back long. Yeah, way back.
I would go as far as to say if you went back over Malcolm and Malcolm and Ian in the old days, their last 100 winners, I would suggest, off the top of my head, 75 of them might be mares.
Yeah, very, very good trainers of the fairer sex. And John Morrison, okay, he didn't have to do too much there, just stepped her, took the right trail behind James Dean, who was excellent on show day. James Dean, of course, will go to the Green Mile. We'll talk about that a little bit later on at Methven, where the trotting field, I think, will exceed what is in the pacing race, and there, hopefully, will be Harriet of Mott. Great things happen, and the likes. Here's Harriet of Mott, of course, threw away the Dominion with a gallop early and late in front here, and John Dundas sitting quietly on her, keeping her confidence levels up, because at her best, she's very competitive at the top level.
Yeah, no doubts about that. She could turn up and win a national trot. Monty Python's been an enormously improved horse. He's really surprised me, but we know how good Harriet of Mott is, and she's in that zone at the moment. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't sure she would handle a rugged grass track, but she trotted beautifully in the straight. And again, I think she'll probably come north, and wouldn't be stunned to see her win a national trot because she has a higher degree of speed than most of our open class trotters.
So Monty Python, would you take him north the way he's going?
I think they like to go down south, fill in the family and knock around down at Wakaiti, wherever they go. And Cromwell, I think it is, they base them on the big grass track. And there's so many options for those horses now. And I think that horse placement, you know, you can race for those 30,000s or whatever they are in the free-for-alls down there. That's probably his go. But yeah, he's been a horse who's been one of the, not fines, but one of the surprise packages.
Well, his career best performance was in the Dominion, and then he's come out and done that, you know, about a week or so later, 8 days later. Speaking of Geraldine, and first training success for Katie Cox, of course, Dean Taylor, she spent time with him, Ken and Tony Barons. Now she's training in her own right, and the horse named Mad Lou Lee moved out to sit parked with a half to go, and Katie got win number 1 on the training ranks.
Kensington Kates are on the inside. It's Mad Lou Lee, better than Springs, half a length away. Karina Lee late, too late though. Mad Lou Lee in front, and no one will beat Mad Lou Lee. Mad Lou Lee beat better than Spring and Karina Lee.
Yeah, good on Katie. It's never easy to try and break into those ranks, but as a junior she did a very good job. She won a Darren DeFilippi Memorial. She was always amongst the drivers. When you looked at a juniors race you thought, gee, I've got to put her in. Training them though, she's realised that the driving ranks and the open ranks are a pretty hard task for the juniors in their initial years, so she thought, right, I might break a few in. She's setting up a property with her mum, I understand, and that's where her forte is going to be.
I like her colours too.
They stand out, don't they?
It's hard for those young trainers to make that jump, but She's got a good reputation and people like her. They're big deals. You know.
Smart girl too. She's got a university degree.
Exactly right. So she's probably not too many university degrees floating around the driver's room. So good on you, Katie. Congratulations. And hopefully we see a lot more of those cool colours out there winning a bunch of races.
North and south of the Waitaki Drivers Series at Invercargill on Friday was always going to be an interesting competition. I understand the North got the business done, but we had a pretty ordinary incident in race number 2. Shane Walkinshaw in this nasty crash. Here's the footage, and we haven't got too many angles, but this is a graphic enough, if you like. And Shane went down, and there's Dexter to the left of him. Yeah, it wasn't great sights at all there, Michael. And I have spoken to Shane this morning. He got home from hospital yesterday. Only saw the incident, that being Tuesday, didn't remember any of it. He's not in such a great way. He's got a fractured skull, amongst other injuries, and eye socket, and his jaw as well, I understand. So he's a month away from work and at least 2 months away from driving. He's a likeable character, he's a very good horseman, and we don't like to see that on any racetrack. I said to him this morning that it could have been a heck of a lot worse. He understands that and is grateful to all the support of all of the people who've sent him messages. And, you know, it's an occupational hazard, and we're just so very pleased that whilst he's got some serious injuries, he's going to come out the other side. Yeah,
and we've seen quite a few recently, just horses just rolling out of their gate and sort of tripping over themselves.
That was Jenny Rose, and she had a bit of a history of doing that.
Yeah, look, yeah, it could have been worse. And Shane, we hope you feel better soon, buddy. I know a head knock's pretty brutal and you can get a bit dazed and stuff, but the concussion will wear off. It always does. You know, it's as bad as those things are. You do just, you know, cross your fingers and occasionally say a prayer and say, "Thank God these things aren't worse." You know, we haven't had.
We have so few, don't we?
We haven't had a tragedy. We've had some terrible things happen on racetracks with smashes, but we haven't had a tragedy here for a very, very long time, and that's the most important thing.
Michael, I think it was show number 1 you might have asked for a driver's premiership market.
I didn't ask, I harped. I harped on, and the TAB, and they probably didn't listen to me because the bookies probably don't like me as much as some other people, but the good news is they put up a driver's premiership market, and well done to them, because the New Zealand punters deserve this. It may only be of interest to some people. Remarkably, option 997 has Blair Orange as $1.35 to win the premiership over a driver who's won the last 10.
Yeah, and he leads by 28 at the moment, Blair, so it's a fair old break. Well, there are some opportunities, though, as we know. Dexter's more than capable of going to a Forbury Park or an Invercargill, driving 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 times, and that could change significantly if that happens, but Blair's got Manawa too.
Well, the crucial fact is this. Blair and Dexter tend to drive at the same place. Often they drive together to go to the same place, so your opportunities there are more or less the same. And Cran doesn't have a whole bunch of horses that are just going to line up and win for Dex. So they're relatively betting on an even playing field. But Blair's going to Manawa too. Now, if he wins 20 races at Manawa too over the season, that'll win in the premiership. But reverse that, if Dexter was going to Manawa too and driving the same horses, he's winning 20, Blair loses 20 and Dexter gets 20. So it's a huge advantage, because all of a sudden you're possibly talking about Blair driving in 150 races more, where he's going to be on the first or fourth favourites than Dexter is. At the moment, it's Blair's premiership to lose, but it's a little bit like betting against Winks, because Dexter wins all the time. So good on them for opening it. I think it's a good thing.
We're only a third of the way through the season, so a lot can change. Here's a record that snuck up on a few people. Brent Weaver getting win number 100 at the Manawa 2. Congratulations to you, Brent. We're lucky enough to have you on the show in the past.
So is this training or driving?
Training. 100 wins.
It's a hell of a thing to do.
He's done a great job, hasn't he?
And guys like him help the Manawa 2 racing so much. And it's a legitimate circuit. It provides a lot of income for a lot of people. And he's a guy who just takes as many horses as he can there as often as he can. So
well done to him.
Yeah, good on him.
We'll be back very shortly. This is Your Boxing. Welcome back into your box seat. Here's what we have ahead for you. Alexandra Park, we've got Thursday night, of course, busy time at the park. $25,000 fast track insurance pick 6:19 the start time there. Forbury Park as well, 5:43. They've got the 8 race program there out of Dunedin. Addington have 8 races with a couple of key races, the NRM Sire Stakes Silver and the Alabar Sire Stakes Series Heat. It's heat number 3, so some very good contests there, plus the return of Dizzy Miss Lizzie, the Jules winner. $10,000 bonus turbo quaddie there between Addington and Alexandra Park, so back-to-back meetings at the park, and not surprisingly, just the 7 races there. Oamaru, it's the Brothers in Arms Series. They've got 10 races, 12:05 the start time there for Saturday, and then a big day at Methven. Very good program there. 17,500 for both the Pacers and Trotters Green Miles, and a start time there of 12:15.
Just some people, Greg, would look at that and go, why the hell are Alexandra Park racing Thursday night and Friday night? One word, money.
Yeah.
Basically, at the moment, Christmas at the park at Alexandra Park is massive.
Sold out, isn't it?
Exactly. So they just keep selling out the corporates. Now, what they do is if they can truck a whole bunch of people on Thursday, then a whole bunch of different people on Friday, they can sell packages, make money out of those, and that money goes back into the industry. So some people are like, oh, small fields, and they'll get the rah-rah. It's just business. It really is. That's why Addington have occasionally had those...
Well, they've got coming up Thursday, Saturday.
Exactly, yep. Saturday meetings. Does it really matter?
No.
I mean, it's how the business works.
It is. Speaking of the business, I spoke to Peter Jensen about the situation around the selection of the Cup field. We had some feedback from Aidan Johnson. I'm waiting for the board meeting and an update from Peter, so we'll add Aidan's comments around what we've been saying on the show as part of that. I'd like to give it a decent sort of hearing.
Well, the bottom line is Aidan's done nothing wrong. He's
fit the criteria.
He had an opportunity to start his horse in the Cup. That wasn't the argument we put forward in the show last week. This will be discussed at board level. What we said was it shouldn't be up to owners whether you start in the Cup. The lustre of the Cup should be left to the clubs to say there is a certain criteria. If you don't fit it, you don't get in. That's our argument around it, but the board have the chance to discuss that. Aidan's been forward a very realistic case on why he wanted both Imola and Moonrock last year to start. No one disagrees with that.
Nope, totally. All right, we're 3-all in the head-to-heads, I understand.
I think we've lost our mojo.
Yeah, we definitely have. We need to pick a winner.
We did too much and we got a bit tired and we've been poor.
Right.
And you deserve better than that. So, Gregory, pull your finger out.
Yeah, I am. Aloka. I'm going with Aloka again, which is
why are you doing this to people? Like, people at home, I told earlier, you need to pay your bills and stuff, and Aloka just keeps giving up in races. So
nah, he won't. He'll win this week. It'll be 4-3. Well, maybe 4-all.
If anybody can stop him, you can.
Yeah, well, you'd know. Motown, very good chance.
That's the Friday night meeting at Alexandra Park. Motown's off a 30-metre handicap over 2,200. Ironically, there's been a lot of horses winning off handicaps over 2,200, but the front line is a scratch. It's only actually a 20-metre handicap. It's a small field. He's a good horse. So.
Let's have a look at Addington Friday night and the Sire Stakes Silver, dominated by the All-Stars team. Fun at the Beach has come up with Barrier 1. Nathan Purdon will be doing the steering. He was fantastic on show day.
He was. Very hard to go past him. He's the horse in the black colours.
That's
coming
a Loca in front,
outside. Yeah, there's a Loca, your mate. This horse has improved a lot, as often their 3-year-olds do, with a bit of racing, and Cup week form is always going to hold up. I'm not sure how good he is. I don't really know. It's hard to work out.
He's got Barrier 1 over 1950.
Hard to work out with some of their 3-year-olds just how good they are because they improve so much with a bit of racing.
Michael, he's up against Tennyson Bromack, who have a new driver.
Who was second there.
Matthew Williamson doing the steering on him on Friday night. Anthem, who won on Cup Day. So it's a deep race, and Anthem beat Hale Christian.
Are you working there Friday night?
I'll be there Friday night.
Maybe you can go and ask Natalie and say, what do you think's going to win? And then you can tell us all, and then we can make some money.
Well, the other race that they will dominate, I think, it's the return of Dizzy Miss Lizzie, is the Sire Stakes Heat, and of course Bear Knuckle, who had no luck during Cup Week, and Almac, who was outstanding first up. She has to come from the outside draw.
Well, again, you can go to the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because like...
Okay, so you're telling me what to do now.
Exactly, you don't do a lot else.
Great, I knew you were taking over the show.
So if you just go walk over there and talk to and then talk to Nigel McGrath, and I'll watch, and then we at home can make some money.
You won't be watching?
I will be watching.
Oh, okay.
What else am I going to do?
Righto, you'll be watching Sunday. It's Green Mile Day, and traditionally...
Yes, I'm actually on here, so this would be really good.
Oh, okay. You'll have a say, which we all know that you love having a say. Methven's a great...
This day, they've nailed. The two mobile sprint races have been awesome. The history of them, it's got a short history, has been outstanding.
Yeah, it has been, and of course we'll see the Green Mile Trot with the likes of Harriet and Mock. Great things happen. That's going to be.
Are you working
terrific.
there?
I'll be there. Who do you want me to speak to?
You go word to Gavin Smith because I'm not sure what happened in the Dominion, and maybe the public would like to know. So we've got a few little projects for you this week. You've probably had a pretty quiet week since Cup Week. You didn't do much there. So if you can just mosey along and talk to some of these people, Gregory, that'd be good. And I'll give you marks out of 10 on the show next week. You can also just email us if you want to talk about Greg's performance.
Yeah, thanks for that, Michael.
Sunday.
Thanks for the show as well. Your input's been enormous.
It's important to keep improving.
Yeah, we'll keep on trying to do that. That's been your box seat for this week, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you in 7 days' time.